Hello, my name is Hersh, and welcome to the HERshyt Show. Well, a little bit about it. You're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry, you'll probably cuss at me, but that's all right. I just want to bring to you the realization of what's really going on in this world that a lot of people are afraid to speak on. Enjoy. Welcome to this week's The HERshyt Show. We actually had a couple of snippets and clippets and great conversation without even know we was recording, but that's all right. We some real life talkers around here. We don't sugarcoat, we don't sugarfoot, we don't do none of that. We don't tell no stories. We learn from experience and we keep it moving. But on this week's episode, based off of the conversation we were actually previously having, blended families. How hard is it in your mind to have a blended family, or have you had experience of a blended family?
When you say blended family, you mean like
the Brady Bunch shit? You know what I mean? You got
just
you
like
already got
like
kids.
A marriage, like two different
yeah. You have
okay.
You got kids involved, and say for instance, because I actually know of a possible separation that may be occurring soon, but. It comes to a point of the conversation came up while we were talking. It was like she already had kids prior to the marriage.
Right.
They have kids after they got married.
Together. They have their own. Okay.
So if a separation was to happen in the household, what happens to the kids that aren't your bloodline? Like, how are they still? You know what I mean? Like that's a hard.
That's where integrity comes in, if you ask me.
To me, especially if you've raised them children or that child or whatever, like.
I can't touch on the, getting married and outside kids, but I can touch on dating someone.
With kids?
With kids and bringing, having their.
That's close enough. That's.
Kids.
That's.
Yeah. I just don't believe in bringing, like we was talking about before, I can't see myself being that individual to bring different dudes around my son growing up. And making it look like we're together when we may not be together or may not grow into something.
I can agree to that. Only because you have a certain standard and way that you want. You want your son or your child looking at you. You don't want them looking at mom like all these different guys. My mama was
a hoe.
My mama was a hoe.
You don't want that to be traded like that.
I don't want my child thinking I'm a pass around because you ain't puff passing this puss. This
a lot of people don't see it that way. I myself, I respect that.
Not
I've actually had a dude that I wouldn't go like if the kids were around. I'm not coming near you.
Yeah,
that's out of respect for your children. Because if we're not growing into something, why would I want to kick it with kids, of course, because I love kids. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not going to make these kids assume that I'm always going to be around in that aspect.
That's because you have that mentality. Like you raise your kids that way, so you expect the same thing on the opposite side.
Yeah, that's being ethical.
Most
people do not think like that.
But see, but when you separate, like when we separate, that on you already know we went through hell 9 years on and off. But we still had that foundation in our we should have just stayed friends, put it that way.
Right.
But then his kids never knew that we were actually ever together. They just knew that Hershey was always around growing up. They didn't learn until they got older.
Right.
That, oh shit, y'all were really together at one point. And I was like, something like that. But
till Valentine's.
Yeah, no.
That hard.
No. We were actually living together, raising kids together. Like it was the whole shebang. You know what I mean? But,
I think what you heard, that might have been because you put your son first.
Yes.
So.
But even those kids, when we were no longer in the same household and separate, I still made it a point to be a part of those kids' lives because they were my children too.
You got a heart.
So
that's just it.
Yeah.
Some people, when some people split up,
they split the kids up.
They split the kids up and everything, and it's like, man,
it's like get over your ego, get over yourself.
That's.
But if you get into another relationship and that new individual has an issue, because I had that problem with my ex when he started getting with other chicks or whatever, and they was like, why are you always going to get, why are you hanging around him? Why are you getting him from school? That's his godfather. I mean, his godson. My son is his godson. But at the same time, bitch, who are you to be questioning why but I also get it.
Right.
Because that's your ex's child. So I can get it from both sides, but what you're not going to do is question when it comes down to the agreement me and this man has.
Right.
So do you foresee it being either an issue with somebody in that aspect, or could you be with somebody that would have an issue with you still caring for other children?
I can see it being an issue. It kind of just depends. Because like you said, there's a lot of factors that play a part in that. Jumping into another relationship, you still being around. It depends on how you guys... I'm
not still around.
Well, I'm just saying...
But the child. I'm talking about the child. So it wouldn't be an aspect of... So my example, I wasn't the one that came... Like, if I couldn't get off work in enough time, hey, can you just go scoop him up from daycare and then I'll come and get him from you?
Now, are we co-parenting? Is this a co-parenting?
It was like a co-parenting thing.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But I can't say that's his... Because it's his godson, not his son.
Right.
But that you've been a part of his life since day one. You know what I mean? I never treated him like baby daddy. Right. But at the same time, you stepped in that role. So if I couldn't pick him up from daycare, he would pick him up from daycare. XYZ or vice versa. If his kids needed something, I would go get something for the kids or whatever.
Yeah,
that's what it was. And there was no bloodline attached as far as my child and
somebody else having an issue with it. Them. I think that's where maturity comes in.
Man,
you got to step back and be like...
A lot of people like that.
But out of respect, I wouldn't come in the house to pick him up. I would pull up at the driveway or the edge of the driveway to try to keep the comfortability.
You're keeping no ego involved with you.
I tried.
I mean, I'm just saying, that's basically
good. Being a responsible adult. A lot of people get beside themselves and they just...
Or they use their children to...
That's my point, too. There are some that use the children to try to continue to come around.
Right.
Or a little mind game.
So where's the
you gotta be mature about it.
That's the maturity when that comes in.
You gotta communicate and set those boundaries.
Would you date somebody with children and quickly meet those children is my question.
So for me, I'm different. Just give you a rundown on me. Women have joked in the past about me and my kids. They call my kids the Hallmark kids.
Hallmark?
Yeah, because they only seen pictures. I don't bring you around unless I know that we
and I respect that wholeheartedly.
No, that's freaking awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's for me.
Most men won't do that.
I don't want my kids saying, "Okay."
It's kind of the same thing what she's doing. Your children. You're respecting your children enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
I love that. Yeah.
His kid's mom is amazing as well.
I love that.
There's a lot you don't know about it.
She's an amazing mother.
No, she is.
Amazing.
Hold on.
She crazy as hell. She can be if she needs to be.
She is amazing. I wouldn't.
But as a mother, she is an amazing woman.
Right.
But every woman has the ability to snap off when need be.
And that's the agreement that me and her have.
Yeah. Don't bring nobody around my kids.
Well, she knows I'm not the type because one, I'm the type where I have girls, and I don't want my daughters thinking daddy's a player.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want my son to think that we go to women like this.
Yeah.
Nah. So those are. I set examples because of them, but at the same time, you got to be special. Yeah. I'm dating, someone who's been around my kids, but again, I can count on one finger of someone who's been. Well, I'm sorry, about two who. When it comes to women who have met my kids,
I'm one of them.
Yeah, I mean women. Again,
but no, they were married at the time. And
exactly.
I actually came in town, and his wife invited me over. It wasn't me popping up saying, "What up, battle?" No. His wife was just like, "Come on, Hersh," gave me hugs and all that.
But I don't bring women I'm dating around like you.
Yeah, I respect that.
Right.
Oh yeah, and I felt uncomfortable walking into the apartment. I was just like, and I don't, because I was so used to being with the battle buddies,
right.
And I've met his wife at the time, so it was just awkward because now it's not, I can't cut up with you like one of the fellas.
Yeah.
And it just felt awkward.
It's respect there.
It was a total, I felt like I was walking on eggshells, I ain't gonna lie. And she gave me permission to come pick her husband up. I was really scared, like, are you trying to set me up to kill me? I didn't know. I wasn't used to that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, but she was just like, I trust you. Go ahead. You know, I know y'all good. Blah, 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 blah. So I was like, bet. Let's hurry up. I need a drink. You know, and that's how it went down. It was my birthday weekend.
Communicate. That's all.
No, we weren't dating. So
that's it. Communication. You got a good line of communication. And set boundaries. I think, when you're involving someone else from the outside into your situation, and you have another, parent over here, your co-parent, whatever the case is, when you're dealing with the mixing of, kids, communicate.
That's the biggest thing, and some people don't communicate.
And it's not the kids' fault. You know what I mean? That's what a lot of people, whatever it is, they take it out on the children or make them drink. No, it's not their fault.
It also depends on how their relationship ended, because if there's a lot of
that's whole different.
I don't feel like I gotta explain nothing to you. They might just be.
That's my husband like figure it out for yourself. What you hear is true. Okay.
Yeah. So it just depends. I mean, if y'all are both responsible, mature adults, y'all can talk it out. Get through it.
As a blended family, though, like when you step into a relationship, I ain't gonna say situationship, a relationship, and those kids are old enough, they're not babies. Because if you step into a relationship and they're babies, that's a whole different breed. You step in, you take the role, and they know you as always being around, and that's that on that.
Right.
But when you step in and mommy or daddy hasn't been with somebody for years, and now all of a sudden this new person comes in, resentment can play a toll. And we've seen it happen recently in the last 2 years. We've seen it happen, where the resentment kicked in and it's always been just us. And now you bringing this motherfucker on in.
Yeah. I've dealt with that. The one I did in my relationship, my son was like a little cold to her. Yeah. And he kind of grew, on her, but it was cold. And I remember at the time his mom would come to me and saying, Mommy, why you don't have a boyfriend? And he wanted her happy, but he couldn't understand why. Well, why is daddy over here with a girlfriend and you ain't doing nothing? And I saw how he was, you got to communicate. I had to.
You can't just brush the children off,
right?
Because
they're not going to be receptive.
Express their...
Right? They may not be. Oh, are you the new? Nah. You may have to say, hey, this is so and so, and then that person that you're dealing with, you're dating, has to be just as much invested as well.
Yes.
So.
And you've had a situation of dating somebody with kids?
No comment.
Oh God.
She said no comment.
You pleading the fifth.
No comment.
Really? Okay.
I mean, but you have some people that I've even had, roommates, where helping people start over or whatever.
Right. One
was real laid back, quiet type cat, stayed to himself, didn't try to step in. So if me and my son were doing the head bashing game and you ain't going to school, you ain't clean up, he was just like, that's between you and your son.
Right.
The other one, on the other hand, was just like, I ain't gonna let him disrespect no woman. I'm gonna step in between first and foremost.
Yeah.
What you not gonna do?
It's boundaries.
So that, yes, exactly. There's boundaries. You have to have those boundaries set. You can't just assume, but there are women that just can't be alone.
Yeah.
There are men that just can't be alone. My son when I was gone overseas, would be in a bachelor pad, and the door was like a revolving damn door. They were bachelors. They did their thing.
Right.
I didn't realize it, like put two and two together until I come home and catch my son in there with porno magazines in the back. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, y'all had flicks and everything in this house. So he learned at an early age, of certain things he shouldn't have. But it was a bachelor pad. What was I really to expect?
Right.
Kids ain't sleep when you think they sleep.
Oh yeah, trust and believe. You got to remember when you was a kid. Like,
yeah, exactly. You done caught some things that you
just
like.
Everything. My little eye.
Yeah.
So you talking it all.
But I was used to my mama sleeping on the couch all the time, so
mine too.
I slept on the couch most of the time my adult life because I watched mama sleep on the couch most of the time.
Well, she always had to get my dad up for his truck driver for years, and she'd have to get up like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, do a phone call. She'd wake him up. So it was like a thing. She slept better on the couch, which she's so used to it.
But I can say there's been situations where people have gotten back together or ran back to abusive relationships because they were afraid of the kids that they left behind. That weren't their children.
Afraid?
Really?
Yes. That weren't their children.
What do you
I
mean
can
by
speak
afraid,
from
though?
private.
Like,
Afraid to leave those kids in that same situation they
Oh,
just took their own kids out of.
Wow.
so like abusive
The
stuff.
blended
They're like,
household where you have the step side of the family and it was an abusive situation
Oh,
and
I
it's
can
like,
see
let
that.
me get mine and run. But
That would be
I just
tough.
left two behind because they weren't my biological
Ah,
children.
You got
And
that's a big heart.
that magnetizes them to come back. I've lived it. I've seen it. That was my family. You know what I mean? We would get away, but then she always came. And I actually asked her one day, I was just like, why would you keep going back? Because I didn't understand it.
Is that all she knew, or?
I think it was a mix of the all she knew as far as growing up and abuse and this and that and the third. But at the same time, my stepbrothers, even though they never got married, but considered my stepbrother, my brothers.
Right.
She's been there in their life since they were 1 and 3.
So they were basically her kids. Like,
They were pretty much her
so.
kids. So if I ended up leaving, what about them?
Mm-hmm.
And their mom was.
That's a tough one. I don't know.
Their mom
that's
was
sort of like-
off somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? He would have ended up being a single father to those boys, and I think that fear of the what ifs kind of I don't know.
They got to be hard.
But
That's hard.
That's a tricky one. I'm like,
I don't know what I would do in a situation like that, dealing with a woman who ain't really, mothering how she should be, or whatever the case is. And if I've built a relationship with those kids, I don't know. It's hard because I can't speak on it. I've never been there. You know,
that's a very hard decision
it
to
really
make.
is. It's like,
Because do I put my own children back in the same situation, or do I steer clear and pray that the other kids that I
it's gonna eat
left,
you. That's gonna be something that's gonna be.
And I think that's what really drug her back.
Really?
You know what I mean? It was for the kids. I really and honestly believe.
How did the overall situation end up? Was it a good decision? Okay, well, that is.
what's that look for?
Yeah.
Well, both of all three of them are now gone. The only one that I was really close to was my little brother, and that's the one that committed suicide. You remember that?
Gotcha.
Yeah, so he was the only one that I was really close to in the situation. But as far, my mama finally left the situation when we came, right before we went to Iraq. She finally left the situation, left him, but she didn't keep it hands off. You know, we're all grown now by this time, but she endured so much for so long, and I really and honestly believe it was for the kids. Whether it be during that time not being able to, as a woman, find anything, because it was hard for women to get into the job field and get into all that. And at the same time, the fear of the children, if I do leave, what happens to these boys? So I think it was a mix of both. The stability financially on top of the stability, having a roof over the kids' heads and keeping the abuse away from the kids, but enduring the abuse yourself. You know what I mean? But there's so many different kind of blended families, it's ridiculous. You have people that meet each other, they fall in love, they get married, there's already kids involved maybe on both sides.
Right.
And then they're married for a while, and then it's like, oh, well, this really ain't working out. What about the kids? Like that's the part people really need to start thinking about automatically, not just you.
Right.
What about the kids? We need to have an agreement with these kids. I don't care if they're my bloodline or not.
Well, they get invested in it too, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you said, the example of setting the standard.
They get invested in it and they don't understand. You know, like when something happens, they're like, what happened? You know?
Yeah. Like, where did he go? Because you're going to have the questions. Well, where did so-and-so go? Even as friends, even if you're not showing the relationship around the kids. Right. And this is just, Miss so-and-so or Mr. so-and-so or this is my homeboy, my homegirl, whatever. They don't come around no more. Your kid's going to ask.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
They're going to ask off top, especially if you're around each other every single day. But if you're not dating for a purpose, I really don't believe that you should be blending your household.
Right. Yeah, I agree. The purpose. So.
Yep. And we're going to take a break and come right back. At least it wasn't just me giggling when the thing, because it's usually me giggling when it started. Oh my goodness. So before the break, we was talking about blended families.
Mm-hmm.
But that also comes in mind with the property and the splitting and the divorces and the ugliness and the separations and the... Whew.
I'm just going to look.
So...
I'm just kind of peeking at you. I'm like...
I
no names, but yeah.
I think all of us now, I went through, mine was more of a contract deal when I did mine. So mine wasn't the ugly divorce. I haven't been really married. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. It was a quick little, I'm going to help you out real quick or whatever, and then quick divorce type deal. So it wasn't really a marriage. On paper, yes, but not really a marriage. We didn't never live together, none of that. But being divorcees, how hard? Well, I mean, if you actually communicate, we already established communication is the key. Mm-hmm. How hard is it to really? That's when you start seeing people's real colors.
Mm-hmm. And all these empty promises.
So emotions is triggered. It's a lot that goes behind when you're separating or divorcing. I think that comes under the lines of the maturity. Mm-hmm. I think that's why people get lawyers involved, because I can tell you something all day, but if I'm not following up behind it,
yeah,
you know.
So, like in most cases, and it depends on the states too, the states or the counties or whatever. There's different laws in each state. I think in Georgia now, if children are involved at some point, I think they started, and you could tell me if this is right or wrong. They had to go through some type of counseling prior to the divorce because the children were involved.
Right.
I'm not sure. I don't know when they started that, but I've seen some people have to go through it because children were involved. They had to go through the family therapy sessions to try to work it out. You know, and if somebody already has it in their mind.
I think that's cases in some marriages before you get married, certain churches and stuff.
Yeah.
You got to go to counseling and stuff.
Well, hell, I can go on and be an ordained minister for $20 off.
Let's do it. And you married now.
You ain't got to go through no therapy. Fuck it, take a shot and get married, baby.
Woo! Yeah, they require.
But they do. Yeah. Because of the children aspect. But I think if people can come to an agreement, that's is it always going to be upheld?
That's the hardest thing. Holding what you say you're going to do.
Be as good as your word and walk your talk.
Yeah, like not everybody.
I'm real big on walking your talk, you know, and it's like when somebody don't do it, I'm like,
you got to think too.
I'm like, what?
All divorces aren't pretty. It's very rare that they are okay. We cool. We understand why this is happening. Let's go our separate ways. At the same time, kids is involved. We can be great co-parents. So,
and a lot of people do make better co-parents than they do.
Oh, absolutely.
Marriages.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I believe that.
I've seen that.
I'm here.
Be better friends, you know, co-parenting, talk better. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Me and mine are real cool. Like we're better
as friends, as co-parents.
Right.
Y'all have the communicate, but you and your ex, y'all have always been able to do that communication. It might not have been pretty all the time.
Yeah. Well, it got better over time.
But yeah, I think it does, because it's like taking the Band-Aid off the wound and letting that fresh air hit it that first time. Yeah. That initial, we're getting a divorce, and that initial, this is really happening. It's like snatching that doggone Band-Aid off and letting that fresh air hit it. Of course, it's going to hurt. It's going to sting at first.
Yeah.
But
hold your word, man.
I'm just real big on that, and that's why I guess I'm learning my lesson. You know, and
it seems
you know like somebody you really think you know, and that's what hurts the worst.
Yeah.
You know?
I've also seen where other people, if they've already moved on or they start to move on, they'll be like, "Well, I've seen women do it well with children involved." You know, well, you talk to my husband now. You don't talk to me no more. You talk to my husband. That's the child's daddy. The hell you mean he got to talk to the husband?
Yeah.
You know, I've seen it both ways, and I've seen men act the fool over another dude being around their child. So I've seen it in all aspects, and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a subject within itself.
So many different avenues.
Just being mature. You got to be mature adults. At the end of the day, communication is key.
It really is.
And, you know, once you all come up to an agreement.
Real communication, not no empty promises. Come on.
I just cut it off.
It can't be led by emotions.
You on my nerves, block the lane.
Actually, I don't even block numbers. I just look at it.
Well, you don't have to. I mean, I'm just like,
Like I just the communication was never really. I tried it. You know, with my son's father, I tried it, and I don't bash him at all in front of him because I don't know what he's doing.
Right.
How can I bash something that I don't know what's going on?
There are
you know
people out here that will just do it out of anger, past emotions,
and bitterness.
The bitterness.
Oh my God! But it's like, why should I be so upset with what you got going on?
A lot of people can't move on.
But he was also upset that another man was raising his child.
It hurt. A lot of things stem from emotion.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, a lot of people don't get it. Like, remove that. And it's hard to get through it. I understand you've been hurt at one time. That person may have done something to you, spiteful, whatever the case was, cheated, whatever the case was. You're going to have to grow and get past that.
that's where you sit down. That's where I had to sit down and be alone.
Right.
Yeah.
I sat there because that's the only way I could, not anybody else interacting, just had to sit there and really go inside and heal them, the trauma emotions, my emotions from the other emotions. You know, it's like.
Once you get past that part.
And there's no time frame.
No, everybody's trauma is different. Everybody heals differently. Everybody wires the brain differently. You know.
But I was having this conversation the other day with somebody, and I was like, well, even if y'all do come to that lovely sit down moment agreement, and the relief may occur on both ends, you know, we had the full-fledged conversation about it, but at the same time, the reality may sit in of, regardless, you're still used to that person being in the same household. So there's going to be moments, even though y'all may have known, you know, that it wasn't right or it wasn't going nowhere or whatever. Even in relationships, if y'all moved in together, you know, it's pretty much cheaper because somebody just moves out versus having to go through divorce lawyers and all that. But, you know, it still boils down to getting used to the change. Even if it is an agreement, it's still a change. You know, and certain things are going to make you think about the person, and you're going to miss certain things. I don't care how bad y'all may have had it or whatever. There's still going to be certain things that you're going to be like, ah, man, if so-and-so was here, I wouldn't have to cut the grass. That motherfucker would already be out there doing it, you know, or just little things. And men go through it too. They be like, man, you know, if I come home and the dinner ain't cooked or, you know, I don't see XYZ, my clothes ain't folded a certain way, I got to do this shit myself now, you know. So there's different things. But
that's a transition from being with someone.
And there's no time frame for that transition to occur.
Not.
You have to find your new norm. But when it comes down to blended families, it's that much harder.
Yeah, because your heart, when you're dealing with just one person that you're breaking that tie with, it's easier than that one person plus the kid.
And unless you adopted that child within that marriage or that relationship or whatever, you don't have any legal binds.
That's just it.
And that individual can keep that child from you. And you can't do shit about it.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like, I don't know. I guess you gotta weigh your options. I really wish people would stop jumping into relationships and pushing onto the child that fast, because there's so many people with the insecurities within themselves. They have to have that person around, that man, that woman.
They can't be alone.
Can't be alone. Can't sleep alone. Can't buy you a body pillow and wrap around that motherfucker. Put a t-shirt on it. You know, some sweatpants or something. Throw your leg over it. Do something. But stop trying to force something because you don't want to be alone and put that child's needs in front of your own. I think that is the biggest motivation right there. We all say, do it for your children. Do it for your children. That comes also in who you invite in your household.
Sure.
You have to think of your children first. Because Mr. Tommy or Mr. whoever might be a fucking pervert that you're bringing into that household.
That's another thing. That's a whole other subject there, dealing with your kids being with the other parent and who that parent brings around their kids.
Can't bring everybody around your children or even know where you need to live, because Lord have mercy. There's some folks I grew up with, they'd never know where I live at.
Yeah.
And I would love to interview them.
Yeah, I'll say
but they're not going to come on the show
That's
face to face.
Meeting, right?
Yeah, that's going to be the Zoom meeting. Because you can't invite that negative energy to your household at all times. But if there's people that mask themselves so well, you're like, oh, it's going to work, it's going to work, it's going to work. I want to go to the next level and let them start spending the night. You still don't know this individual's background, man or woman.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because there's some cray-crays out there. Cray-crays.
That's true.
Cray-cray. And you won't be wearing your crown by the time they get finished with your head.
Yeah. There's, I think, dealing with people. You really don't know people. Like, people put on a facade. They show you the representatives. And it takes time. That's why with me and mine, like, if I'm dating you, it's going to be, I say a year. Like, off top, easy. Like, in a year, you ain't seeing my kids. Because I just need to know if what we got.
Within the first 90 days, they show you your true colors anyway. If y'all are constantly together, with it, what will you say in the military during deployments or whatever? In 90 days, people get comfortable.
Yeah.
And they start showing you exactly who they are, and that mask starts chipping away. You know. But some can still maintain it.
I say a year for me, but it's easier for me.
No. I mean in 90 days just to start to see their real personality.
Gotcha.
Not bringing your children around, because
right.
There's hit it and quit it that still ain't met my child.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
But at the same time, you can start, if you're paying attention now.
Mm-hmm. Which you should. I mean,
some people don't.
They look past the red flags.
Because they looking for somebody to settle. Oh, they got
There's some red flags.
Stable.
The red flags is waving. You're like, the red flags is going crazy. And you're just like, but that's just one time.
Well, they're stable. You know, they're financially stable. They have their own place. They have, but you ain't met none of the family. You ain't met none of the friends that's been around, since childhood. You ain't. It's a fly-by, let me call you at 2-3 in the morning, come through and skip and dip. Oh, we can grow into something, what, mold? Because mold grows in the dark and the cold and damp.
You said mold.
Yeah, that's true.
But you want it to grow into something like, y'all ain't even watching the sunrise together.
Right.
Or sunset together.
That's when we take that hard paper.
Yeah.
So what gets you into the blended family moment? What would make you think it would be the right move to even attempt it?
Now, are we talking about pre-meeting the kids or?
Yes.
It's hard.
We all over the place with this one.
You can't really say, like, me and you can be kicking it up. Say me and you have kids, I got kids.
Mm-hmm.
If everything is good with us, we know it's like, okay, we on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Next to still being on the same page.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is what we're walking into. And you kind of look at every aspect of this situation and how it will turn out and what's your goals and why. It's a lot that
So what if she comes out and says, I don't want to meet your kids. I only want you.
Well, guess what?
Look, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a given. That's a no-brainer. Like,
or what if you meet somebody within the first 2 weeks, they really want to meet your kids because they've seen these Hallmark photos, or they give you that.
You got to respect me and my boundaries. You can't just climb over that wall and think I'm just gonna be like, oh, okay, nah.
Would you date somebody with kids again?
She said,
You did.
Well, it is. She does.
Okay. Never mind.
No, I don't know.
What's understood? And I actually
I'm just kidding.
vowed.
It just depends.
I vowed before I had my son. I vowed I would not date a man with kids.
Really?
I think it's wrong.
Before I had Chawars. But I ended up with somebody that had 5 fucking kids. Like, and I love the kids. I can say 5 fucking kids. Don't take it as disrespect. They're my babies. But he ended up with children, but he only came with 2 initially. You know what I mean? But then more children came along, which is fine. I love all of them like my own, but I literally was like, I ain't messing with nobody with kids.
No, I'm not gonna say.
Because I didn't want the baby mama
Two people hit it
drama.
off after kids are not a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But at
you
our
make it work.
age,
You mash it up. You make it work.
at our age, if you find somebody that don't have kids,
It's rare.
they're sterile. They not gonna have no kids.
I'm sterile.
It's rare. I mean, it's sterile.
Like, well, you can have kids if you want to have kids.
I don't know. My phone is all messed up. It's got venom in it.
Oh, she got bit by a snake.
No, I really did. I got bit by a snake.
She got bit by a
I
snake.
about died.
And you can't make people feel bad for not having kids, and I'm not trying to, but at the same time, because I had my one and it was done. You know what I mean? I couldn't have it. He was my miracle baby. So, hey, it is what it is. But at our age, 40 and above, how often are you going to meet somebody that doesn't have children?
No, it's not.
That they know of.
Yeah, I know.
Because got some out there that pink Cadillac days, they got some that they don't want to speak on.
Right.
We ain't gonna go that route. That's a whole different story. But yeah, but with the blended household, we've been all over the place. But with the blended household, communication is key. Bottom line. And if they're trying to rush something, male or female, because I've had dudes be like, "Well, I want to meet your young man." Nick, you know.
Well, I guess it depends on how serious the relationship between y'all is too.
And the maturity too.
Yeah.
Both parties.
Right. The rush to want to see some kids.
I don't have the energy to meet somebody and date at the moment. I just don't. Some people do have that, and they make that time for that energy where they want to be with somebody, because not only some people don't want to be alone, but they can be alone.
Right.
Some people just can't be alone, and they have to get the body pillow with the hoodie and the sweats or whatever, spray some cologne or some shit. I don't know.
Right.
You know, whatever knocks you off. Get you, what is that, the rose? They got the rose these days. They got some pocket pussies. They got plenty of things. You don't have to have.
People looking for touch.
Some people just want an orgasm. Yeah. You know what I mean? So however you want to get your snail snot rocked or, you know, your lollipop licked, you know, you just do you. But you don't have to have that person.
Did you say pussy pocket?
Yes. They got them. They got the pocket pussies. They do. There's options. That's all I'm saying. But if you want to be a part of a blended family, or it just happens because some things just blossom, you don't look for it and it happens. You meet your soulmate or whatever.
That's what I'm saying. You'll make it work, whatever it is.
Y'all have to have that communication, bottom line.
Right.
And if it doesn't work and y'all do end up separating for whatever reason, agreement or not, don't forget about the children. Don't hang the children over the next individual's head because you know it's going to hurt them. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you also have to understand and respect the fact that you are not that person, that child's mother or father.
Mm-hmm.
You let them know that you're always going to be there because you are breaking up with more than one individual in the household.
That's true.
Right.
So, yeah. Blended families, hey, get whatever you get, whatever you need to not feel alone. But until next time, this is the HERshyt
Get your
Show.
pocket. Get you one of them pockets.
Be sure to log on to youtube.com and subscribe to the HERshyt Show at THERshytShow. Brought to you by 8 Robinsons TV and Yellow Tub Creative.
Subscribe to The HERshyt Show on YouTube and Facebook. Support by purchasing merchandise at www.8robinsons.com.